It's Thursday, the 30th of June, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
All right, Adam, it is the 30th of June. It is the last day of the financial year, but we still have 5 stories to get through in 5 minutes, so let's jump into it. Story number 1, good news for retailers. May, it seems, was a good month, a strong month, actually quite a bit stronger than expected. It seems customers are still opening their wallets despite rising prices. Month on month, retail turnover rose 0.9% to $33.2 billion, which is up 10.4%, would you believe, on the same time the previous year.
Michael, this data includes physical retail and online sales, and expectations were for around a 0.4% increase. So 0.9% has surprised on the upside. Retail spending in department stores rose a huge 5.1%. Eating out was up by 1.8%. Food spending was up 0.6%, but clothing and soft goods fell by 1.4%.
Adam, I don't normally do this, but I've got a quick follow-up question to it.
Go on.
Because we know there was a pandemic boom in spending on goods rather than services because people were in lockdown. They couldn't actually get out to use the services, so they bought things to use at home instead. COVID restrictions are gone. Politicians say we're not going back to lockdowns again. So can we expect that retail growth to continue?
Now, that is a great question, Michael, and the short answer is no. And the reasons, as we know, also include higher interest rates and inflation. These will reduce the available amount we have to spend at retail. Alongside that, consumer confidence is at its lowest level since the global financial crisis, while wages are just starting to show signs of growth.
All right, on to story number 2 now. We've talked a lot about Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's visit to Madrid this week. It feels like Australia's taking its place on the world stage. The list of meetings that he's having while at the NATO summit is impressive. Sideline meetings with the leaders of Britain, Italy, Germany and the European Commission. He's meeting with the leaders of New Zealand, Japan, South Korea. They're the other non-NATO members invited to attend what is the largest NATO summit ever held. One of the big developments, though, in the last 24 hours is the announcement of US reinforcements of NATO forces in Europe. US President Joe Biden describing the alliance as being needed more today than it ever has been.
That's right, Michael. And on this very important stage, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's own speech to the gathering makes Australia's position pretty clear, telling NATO that, quote, "We recognise there is strategic competition in our region, and Australia is not afraid to stand up with all the countries of our region for an open, inclusive and prosperous Indo-Pacific." End of quote. China is going to be framed as a systemic challenge for NATO, the first time the organisation has considered the threat posed by that nation.
Now, story number 3, Adam, how about this? Origin Energy has been hit with a record fine of $17 million for failing to look after customers who are suffering hardship. The Australian Energy Regulator took Origin to the federal court, alleging more than 100,000 breaches over almost 4 years.
That's right, Michael. The scale of this is incredible. Now, hardship policies are in place to protect those who are facing financial difficulties, and apparently Origin had automated processes in place that went against its own hardship practices, things like increasing payment amounts without considering that customer's ability to pay.
Shows the importance of the human touch at times, doesn't it? Now, story number 4, Adam, we can probably expect more people to be called to testify to the congressional committee that's investigating last year's attack on the US Capitol. Yesterday, we heard some pretty explosive claims from Cassidy Hutchinson, who was an aide to President Trump's chief of staff. She testified that before his speech, where he called on people to resist the election result, the president knew that protesters were armed.
And sometimes, Michael, truth is getting stranger than fiction. Some were carrying AR-15 assault rifles, but apparently the president wanted security staff to stop screening them so more people could get in and that crowd would look even larger.
Yeah, apparently the quote was, he said, "They're not here to hurt me," which I just find extraordinary. But anyway, we shall see what comes out of that now. Story number 5, last one, Adam. This is pretty funny. If you thought $12 for a lettuce was expensive.
It's not funny so far, Michael.
No, sorry, I know that actually hurts. But would you pay $425 for a single cherry? This story is out of the Times. They're no ordinary cherries. It was a cherry auction in Japan. A box of 15 Juno heart cherries sold for the equivalent of almost $6,400, or basically $425 each.
Incredible and extremely expensive fruit has become something of a trend in corporate Japan, where luxury fruit is part of the summer gift-giving season. These cherries are apparently very sweet and very large, but even still, the diameter is only 3.1 centimetres, so that works out at about 2 bites for $400.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that one. That's it, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 30th of June, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. And don't forget, Safe Word by Fear and Greed, which is our lighter look at the world of business, is out every Thursday. Find that wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.